Oh my goodness. Phew. I spent all day up in the deep woods at my cabin, all day long. I was burning a nice hot fire, big log on the stove, and phew. Man, oh man. Ever had one of those days that feel like it's never going to end and you just want it to end? um, One of the many countless things people could be asking me to do is to make things a lot simpler. Simpler not only for themselves, but they also, too, have some of their young ones watch my videos. I don't know what they think about me. It's like, Mommy, why you let me watch this fat, bald, tattooed guy? Specifically, if you're able to understand 4 points clearly, then you have a proper foundation for understanding things and actually being able to part the garbage and nonsense of relativity and quantum. Everybody keeps using that word quantum, and I will point out to you, by the way, the fact that Tesla, Faraday, Steinmetz, Heaviside, James Clerk Maxwell, Charles Purdy, these people didn't make use of this word because there's nothing that you could point to in nature and call that quantum. What about quantum entanglement? What about... I'm sorry, you can call anything quantum. I could call this a quantum computing device, or my microwave is a quantum heater, but this doesn't make any reference to fields, doesn't extrapolate on 4 Maxwellian field equations. There's another great word. So the 4 points are magnetic attraction, field, light, and gravity. I really don't need this. I've only got 4 sentences here to actually talk about this entire video since, I've lectured on this. Yes, literally lectured on this, like Science and Energy Conference and 2 other places. One I wished I never went to. I got so many questions, and there's a lot of people of a certain atomistic persuasion there. Fundamentally, too, you need to understand there should be a 5th point. There's only ever been 2 foundations of ultimate reality ever proposed throughout the entirety of all histories. One's been atomism, and the other one's been the ether. Only those 2. You can't explain instantaneous action at a distance with particles, or the cult of bumping particles, as I refer to it. You can't explain wireless power induction with particleism or atomism. It's completely impossible. Ultimately, it's materialism. It is atomism. I mean, everything old is new again. Greek atomism is extremely ancient. We just have a new wave of atomism. Atomism fundamentally is no different than saying materialism, and materialism is a soul-denying, nihilistic mascara over top of, I don't want to say disdain for metaphysics, but that ultimately is what it is. And the other one, of course, is the ether. So there's only those 2 foundations ever been proposed. You can't build a foundation, and no one has ever even proposed any foundation for ultimate reality, both seen and unseen, both physics and metaphysics, other than those 2. The ether explains everything, and atomism can't explain what a field is, can't explain what energy is, can't explain wireless power induction, can't explain instantaneous action at a distance. It violates the law of the conservation of energy because they think light is a particle, and light is not. So let's go down in no particular order on these 4, and if you could understand these 4 and have a proper framework, and the question must be asked, does the center hold? If the center doesn't hold, then you either don't understand it or the entire premise. You do understand it really well, and then the premise of that doesn't hold water. And the center does not hold when it comes to atomism. This ether-denying materialistic nihilism, which of course is what it is. No branch of science has ever defined the term field. Energy, you think you can define energy, you look it up on Wikipedia. It's the ability to do work. Well, that's descriptive, but it's not explicative. So you can go to Wikipedia and look up the scientific definition of energy. There's still not an explanation for energy. No branch of science has ever defined field, energy, or force. The most important one, of course, everything is fields, and fields are not particles. I, however, and I unfortunately get falsely blamed for this, they think that I deny atoms or particles, and I've never, ever done that. To reject atomism is not the rejection of particles or atoms. But a field is, and if you could explain it to a child, then you truly understand it. What is a field? Well, a field is an ether perturbation modality, kind of like ice, water, and steam, or different temperature, pressure modalities of one thing, that being water. Yeah? The so-called GUT, or ground unification theory, which of course nobody has, except for me, by the way. Gravity, weak force, strong force, dielectric, magnetic, and gravity, they're already unified. Everything in nature, nature, of course, is unified. But these people are trying to unify something that is already unified. And if something is already unified, and they're trying to unify it, which is not my position or opinion, it is a fact that they are trying to unify it, this means they don't see things clearly. Just think about that for a second. If things are already unified in nature, which they are, and they're trying to unify it, this means they can't see clearly. Because nature doesn't hide anything. The only time anything is hidden in nature is due to a human being's stupidity and preconceptions, which are 9 times out of 10 wrong. So a field in simple, explain it to a child. Little Johnny, you know what a field is? The Greek word would be kora. Field is an ether perturbation modality. There it is. There's field explained. That simple. Isn't that nice? Everything in nature just explained in like a very, very small sentence. Well, every aspect or attribute of nature. Let's go on to light. By the way, not my position or opinion, but that of relativity and quantum itself. Go look it up. Quantum bases, all of quantum is based upon our understanding as the nature of light. Yet, they have no idea what light is. Light is not a particle. Light is not an emission. Light is not a wave. A wave of what? Waves are not things, rather what things do. Not a particle, not a wave. It is not emission. Nothing emits light. This is the reason why Nikola Tesla said light is nothing but a sound wave in the ether. Well, sound has a speed, but it's not a speed. It's the rate of induction, the maximum rate of disturbance. Of course, the speed of sound changes depending on air density, temperature, a few other factors. But sound is not an emission. Everybody thinks when they talk they emit sound. Well, conventionally, for mere parlance, that would be accurate. I'm speaking words. Well, yes, you are, but you're not emitting anything. Sound's not an emission. It's a disturbance of the medium. You cannot, with atomism, with relativity, with quantum, explain light speeding back up again after it leaves glass. I don't know if you know this or not, but the so-called, it's a rate of induction of the hysteresis of the ether, i.e. the medium. When light travels and it's not traveling either, it's the disturbance. Yeah, kind of like sound changes frequency. It changes in water because it's not an emission. The medium is changed. The same idea of the disturbance of light occurring at glass, slowing down. Well, the rate of induction is changed. This is where we get refraction from, of course, too. Yet no branch of science has actually accurately, vis-a-vis fields, explained refraction, even though refraction is incredibly simple. You can't say light speeds back up after it leaves glass, because these people think light is an emission, and it's traveling, and it has a speed. But all of those are misnomers. Because that would break the law of conservation of energy. Excuse me, Mr. Scientist, does light speed back up after it leaves glass? Because everybody knows light slows down. It's not slowing down. It's disturbance in the medium. When it enters glass. Well, what about when it leaves glass? It's not leaving either, but for sake of discussion. Yes, it does. Speeds back up. Speeds back up to C. Speed of light. Well, that breaks the law of conservation of energy. That's nonsensical. It's a non-starter, too. Light is not an emission. Light is not a particle. Light is not a wave. Light is not a duality, because there are no dualities in nature. Duality is just a fancy word of saying self-contradictory. Mother Nature, the hairy armpit chick and simple girl that she is, she does not deal in any dualities. There are not even one single duality in nature. Polarization, by the way, is not duality. Polarization, of course, is real, but that's not a duality. There are no dualities in nature. It's not a wave, it's not a particle, it doesn't have a speed. We all think sound is an emission. With speed of sound, broke the sound barrier. Speed of light. This is the rate at which light travels. Light is not traveling. When you flip a switch and turn on a light bulb, it's not emitting anything. It's creating a disturbance in the medium. By the way, nobody sees light. Nobody on Earth ever in any universe has seen light. Light is a principle. What you see is the extrinsic attribute, that of illumination. So by their own admission, quantum and relativity, their own admission, not mine, say that everything they understand about quantum is based upon their understanding of light. But everything they think they understand about light is incorrect. It's not a wave, not a particle, not an emission. Certainly not a duality. It's not a wave-particle duality. Waves are not things. There's a wave. No, that's my hand moving. My hand is in perturbation, disturbance, at a cyclic rate of right now 4 hertz. That would be about 4 hertz, kinda, 4 hertz. 4 hertzian wave right here. No, that's my hand in perturbation. Yep. So if you understand light, and you understand what a field is, and I told you what a field is, and very simple, as an ether perturbation modality. It's just that simple. Light is a coaxial circuit. It's like, what's a coaxial circuit? Have you ever seen the cross-section of a coax cable? That makes it kind of difficult for people. It has a frequency and a wavelength at which the transverse electrical magnetic are actually reverberating. It's a propagating, and it's a propagation, of course, of the medium, just as sound is. And that's the reason why Tesla said light is a sound wave in the ether. Sound is not an emission. It's a disturbance of the medium. Light is not an emission. Maybe you think, however, you're smarter than Tesla. I know the folks of quantum think they are, because they tell you that light is an emission, a wave. So, field and light. Let's get on to the 2 last ones. This next one's really easy. However, it's kind of hard to explain. Kind of, sort of, not really. Magnetic attraction. Here's a correct observation with an incorrect conclusion. We have 2 magnets here. These are not magnets. And when you bring unlike polarities together, they will accelerate, towards one another. By the way, we're also talking about gravity right now, too. Let's just talk about magnetic attraction. Well, magnetic attraction is like talking about dehydrated water. Ain't no such thing. There is no such thing, let me repeat that, no such thing as magnetic attraction. We have 2 magnets here. They're accelerating towards one another. This has been observed for many, many, many thousands of years. Lodestones, magnets have been around for ages, millennia, since the dawn of time. These 2 magnets are accelerating towards one another. That's magnetic attraction, because there's 2 magnets, and they're accelerating towards one another. It's magnetic attraction. There is no such thing as magnetic attraction. That is point source mutual mass acceleration of those objects, and they're not accelerating towards one another. You can actually see this underneath the supercell. You'll see a void spot of the point of inertia existing between both. You see this. I've got videos galore of this. However, so you have 2 correct observations and 2 incorrect conclusions, also 2 about gravity. 2 magnets, they're accelerating towards one another. Magnetic attraction. Every book on Earth will talk about magnetic attraction if it's talking about magnets. But magnetic attraction does not... So you've already said that. Shut up. I know, but it's that important. Just because it's his correct observation, incorrect conclusions. Just because they're magnets and they're accelerating does not mean that the acceleration has anything to do with magnetism. Magnetism is centrifugal force in motion. Acceleration is the opposite of centrifugal. It is the opposite of force. What's the opposite of force? Inertia. Towards rest. Walter Russell called this north and south. He called centrifugal east and west. This is why people have a hard time reading Walter Russell, by the way. He calls centrifugal east and west and centripetal north and south. Also, too, they will say that they're accelerating towards one another, and they are not accelerating towards one another. They're accelerating towards the lowest no pressure point between both. Magnetic attraction does not exist, and neither are the objects accelerating towards one another. Now that is point source mutual mass acceleration. Non-point source mutual mass acceleration. Let me make a really quick analogy. When magnets are accelerating towards one another, which is not magnetism at all, rather dielectric acceleration, no different than static clinging. You're a static clinging, you pull 2 things apart out of the dryer, like, they stick together, you hear that static charge, and then you let go of one, and it'll go, shoop! It'll suck right back to the other one. You know what I'm talking about? You pull your socks apart, you hear that, and they'll go like, shoop! You let go of one, it'll just jump back together. That same static clinging is no different than gravity, and no different than so-called magnetic attraction, which is not magnetism at all. No difference. The only difference is an attribution. Make a perfect analogy to that. Non-point source mutual mass acceleration, i.e. gravity, where two objects are not accelerating towards one another, rather towards the lowest null pressure point, i.e. the erasure of space. You can see this underneath the supercell. Is no different than a light bulb. Light bulb is a conventional light bulb. Yeah, incoherent illumination, right? Light is light is light, right? No, it's not, because like a 5-watt light bulb is useless for doing anything. You had a 5-watt laser. 5 watts is 5 watts, right? 5 watts here, 5 watts here. Well, this one's not even good enough to read a book by, unless you get it really close. And this 5 watts over here, i.e. a laser, will permanently blind you, and it will burn a hole in your butt. I have a 5-watt laser too, by the way. Wicked dangerous. One of them is useless, and there's nothing to fear from it. The other one is powerful as hell, and it will permanently blind you. Think about that for a second. You really want to understand Mother Nature? Think about that. Attributional state differences. 5-watt light bulb, 5-watt laser. 5 watts is 5 watts. One is point source, the laser, and the other one is non-point source. This is the exact same distinction and differentiation between so-called magnetic attraction, which is not magnetism at all, because magnetism is force and motion and centrifugal divergence, not acceleration and not increasing inertia. So the same thing dumb human beings call gravity is the exact same thing that dumb human beings call magnetic attraction, which is incorrect. It's the exact same thing when you like pull two socks apart, like when it's really dry, not humid, but very, very low humidity. You pull them apart, you hear that creak, and you let go of one, and it shoop, jumps right back to it. Those 3 things are exactly the same thing. Gravity, electrostatic cling, and so-called magnetic attraction, which is not magnetism. The only difference is one of is point source, the other 2 is non-point source. All 3 are engaged in one thing only, the erasure of the after effect of a divergent magnetic field. And the after effect of a divergent magnetic field, since it is toroidal geometry, is the creation of space. So-called gravity, so-called magnetic attraction, so-called static cling is the erasure of space. Space has no properties, as Nikola Tesla accurately and famously said, but it does have attributes. But space is not a thing. Space is no different than a shadow. You feel cold in a shadow, but a shadow is not a thing. A shadow is an absence of something. So here's the trick question, which isn't a trick question at all. If you think about it, you'll know the answer. What, therefore, then, is space? If a shadow is not a thing, shadow is an absence of something. And space is exactly like a shadow, essentially exactly like a shadow. What is space the absence of? The answer is inertia. If you understand what gravity is and what light is, what so-called magnetic attraction, which doesn't exist, actually is, and what a field is, just those 4 things, then you have the accurate foundation of the entire universe upon which everything is simple, is explicable. It is not convoluted, does not require a PhD, does not require differential equations. Simplicity is divinity, and Mother Nature really is a hairy armpit chick. Not that Mother Nature is a chick, you know. Really is a hairy armpit chick with hemp skirt, muddy feet, and dreadlocks. She smells like patchouli too. I've met her more than a few times. Mother Nature wanted me to tell you that the folks of quantum and relativity are nuts! Nuts! Someone's going to be like, oh God, I hate you. I have my earbuds in and my ears are bursted. You don't ever scream into the microphone again. I hate you. Meow, meow. Now, I laughed and I kind of poked fun in this video. But really, if a child can understand this, if you understand those 4 principles, you really can understand absolutely everything in nature, very, very simply. If you ever want to contact me, my email's below. Any donation is always warmly welcome. Or you can email me, tell me how much you hate me. But if I'm lying, I'm dying. I've sacrificed all the things that you take for granted in life for the quest to understand the fundamental mechanics of Mother Nature, and I do understand them. Whether you believe it or not, I don't care. And why don't I care? Because, girlfriend, wisdom is its own reward. And it doesn't require confirmation from anyone or anything. Back it up.